You're listening to TV Tangents. Today, we're talking about a beloved film, That Thing You Do. Natalie, welcome.
Hi, Rebecca.
I asked you to watch a movie that you'd never seen before.
True story. I have never seen this before.
I asked you to watch That Thing You Do because I love it. And it came out in, was it 96?
96, yeah, which was the year I graduated from high school.
Nice. What were your thoughts on the movie before? Because I swear I asked you to watch this movie for years, and you were very resistant.
No, I wasn't resistant so much as I don't know if we've talked about this 1,000 times, but I don't watch a lot of movies.
Oh, yeah.
You know, movies I grew up on, I'll watch 1,000 times over again. And then I'm maybe I'm resistant to watching new movies. Maybe that's just it. So,
Sure.
Everything about it looked like it was going to be good. So I just... Sometimes if I don't take the time, if we weren't doing this, I probably wouldn't watch new movies. So I wasn't resistant, like I didn't want to watch it. I just never had the time till we were going to sit down and talk about it.
So did you watch it twice?
I didn't get a chance to watch it twice.
That's okay.
Because I was busy and I'm like, oh, she told me I had to watch it twice so I could watch it all the way through and then do stuff. But then I watched it and I was, again, though, probably would have been a good idea to watch it twice because I just like when we talk about any TV show, when I don't take a lot of notes, I can tell that I'm like into it and enjoying it because there's nothing to take notes about. You know, like usually if I'm like watching something like, oh, other than a few notes about like the cast or something. Yeah. But I just was like into it and watching it. Like, and I wasn't even distracted at all. Never looked at my phone, like anything. So it was super good. I'm so glad I watched it.
I have not watched it recently because I gave you my copy and I didn't want to pay $3.99 for it on Amazon. So, but I've seen it 1,000 times since it came out. It's one of my family's top movies that we watch all the time. So I know it backward and front.
Well, there you go.
This movie was released in 1996, and it's a Tom Hanks creation. Mm-hmm. And Tom Hanks was obviously in the movie, and he created a record label. Playtone is the label that the actual soundtrack is published under. Oh. And I still listen to the soundtrack all the time. Every song on it is amazing.
It is a good song.
It was number 21 on the Billboard 200 albums chart when it was new. All the music in this movie is original.
Yeah.
And written by Tom Hanks and Adam Schlesinger, who you'll remember is from Fountains of Wayne and wrote a couple of songs for the Monkees on their final 2 albums, including I Was There and I'm Told I Had a Good Time. Also, Rick Elias, Scott Rogness, Mike Piccirillo, Gary Gosman, and Howard Shore. It's basically an homage to like one-hit wonder bands from the 1960s, and it takes place in 1964.
I feel like I might have known before that there was supposed to be a soundtrack for this movie with a lot of songs and different things. It's the 60s. It just feels Beatlemania-ish a little bit just because they're a new band and all that stuff too. Mm-hmm. But I was like, oh my God, this is so cute. And seeing all the other little bands and different people, I was like, oh, this is fun.
Did it make you feel super nostalgic for your discovery of the Monkees in the 80s?
A little bit, yes. Okay. A little bit, yeah. Except that that's such a different thing for me because this I knew was supposed to be set in the 60s. Mm-hmm. And it more so makes me sad that we weren't alive in the 60s to discover the Monkees in their originality, like at the beginning. But yeah, a little bit the same way. Like you said, though, just anytime you fall in love with a new band, that kind of gave the same kind of vibes.
Well, what did you think of the like romp sketches? Like there was a part where they're romping over the map when they were on tour.
Yeah.
Loved that.
I loved that.
Which was actually an homage that the Monkees did to the Beatles, because that happens in Help and Hard Day's Night. But so it's an homage to the Beatles,
Right.
but it's also very Monkees-esque.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved that part of it. I just loved in the beginning too when they were like discovered, or when their songs on the radio, just running around and being like, oh my God, just like you would be. It seemed like just pure, pure joy, where it's like genuine. That's the word I was looking for. I was like, what kind of, like, yeah, they're just so fun. But yeah, I loved the little romp scenes. That's cute.
Did you enjoy the movie?
I did.
Will you watch it 1,000 times?
I don't know if I'll watch it 1,000 times.
Because I watch it all the time. Like, it's one of those movies that I put on,
Yeah.
and I don't have to watch it because I've already seen it. But
Yeah, if this came on a TV station, like I still have YouTube TV. So like if it's on, just like any, if Dirty Dancing's on, I just put it on. If it's in the background, I'm cleaning or whatever. Or then, you end up sitting down and watching it because it's so good. I would definitely watch it if it was just on, or some other random time. Yes, I would definitely watch it again, because I will say that too. I was kind of like, especially once I got to the end, I was kind of like, aw, it's so cute and everything. And then you just hope it goes on more. But of course, movies have to end.
It's very low key, and there's not a lot of strife.
Yeah.
So it's like a feel good movie, and I don't like movies with too much tension.
Yeah.
So this one is very bubblegum.
Yeah.
And very bright, and I love it.
Yeah, and it was even a little hard to take at the end when the strife came in, and it was kind of like, oh, what happened? Everything was going all like hunky dory, and now it's bizarre. So yeah, that was interesting.
So the premise of it is that, what's his name? Jimmy, the main guy, played by Johnathon Schaech. I never know how to say his name. I think it's Johnathon Schaech. He plays Jimmy, and his garage band is like his baby.
Yeah.
And their drummer, played by Phoebe's brother. What's his
Giovanni
Ribisi. Giovanni Ribisi. Breaks his arm, so then Skitch has to come in.
That was so weird for me, because it was just like in the very beginning, and they were all like, I mean, obviously they're friends and all kind of are together, because then Guy comes to the whatever malt shop or wherever they are, and they're like, oh, we're forming our band,
because he wants to be a serious jazz musician.
Yeah, and so they were kind of like, oh, hey, whatever, and then boom, all of a sudden, Ribisi's out. I was like, oh, what just happened? Like, that was weird. Why was he even? So yeah, breaks his arm or hurts his arm.
I think it's a nod to the Beatles had a previous drummer who then left the band, and then Ringo came in.
Oh, okay.
And so I think that's kind of the nod to that. They kind of put a lot of different tales in here.
Yeah.
Because as Tom Hanks says in the end, it's a tale as old as time.
Right.
Band gets together, and then they have a big hit and they break up.
And I would say it was interesting to me, because at the very beginning, to me, it seemed as if everything was centered around Guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's working at the appliance shop, the Patterson's appliance shop, which is his family store. He's there, he's doing all the different things, and then just in general, his dealings with Hanks and all the other people, I was like, they want him to be the number one guy anyway.
Yeah. Because I think it's a tale of how he started his music career, as we're not going to spoil at the end of the movie, but like he's started his music career in this band that was just blew up and then fell as fast as they came in. And all of the things that go along with that. Yes. And Jimmy has a big head, and he's like, but, Guy comes in and saves the band. It makes them less boring.
Yeah, because right away when they were playing the first time, he played it too fast. And
love that.
Jimmy was all mad and he wanted it to be like a ballad.
That's such a great scene.
Yeah, I was like, and then everybody loved it and freaked out. So it was awesome.
Who's your favorite character, and then who's your favorite actor in this movie?
Oh, Lord. Well, I have to say that as soon as it started up, I had never seen the guy who played, Guy Patterson. What's his name?
Tom Everett Scott.
I don't think I've ever seen him in anything. I don't know that I kind of looked it up afterwards. I've never seen him in anything else. So he right away was just a different person to me, so like I see him, he's there. I see Steve Zahn right away.
Yes.
And he's Duncan, the gay ice dancer, Phoebe's husband on Friends.
Yep.
And instantly that's who he is. And I'm like, oh, that's that guy. Loved him though. His character was great. He was kind of like funny, but I think also was supposed to be like dumber than everybody else, which
I think he's goofy.
Yeah, goofy.
He plays goofy, and he's also like the womanizer.
Yeah, and it was kind of like though that none of the women wanted him though, so that was always interesting. So it seemed to me it was a little Peter Tork vibe I had going on with that.
Yeah,
so I was kind of like, okay. And Ethan Embry, I right away was like, I know him from something. I know him from something.
Yep.
So in my head, I'm like, what have I seen the most that he's going to be in? Friends, Law and Order SVU, Grey's Anatomy, something along those lines. And of course, it's Grey's Anatomy.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So
is that later? Because
how far are you on Grey's Anatomy?
I'm in like season 11.
Okay. So I know. So you've gone through the plane crash.
Yeah, I'm past.
Sorry for those of you who haven't watched Grey's. Please scroll on past us for a hot second.
But I'm also told that I'm not allowed to complain about spoilers when that was like 10 years ago. But
true. Yeah, are we really spoiling it for people? Okay,
we're talking about the bass player,
Ethan Embry. Yeah, and I can't think of what his name is. He's the guy who joins the service.
Yeah.
Okay.
His name, the character's name is TB Player.
Okay. I kept trying to figure out what his name was.
They never say his name. Literally in the credits, his name is TB Player, which stands for the bass player. That's the character's name.
I'm telling you, yeah. I was like, am I crazy that they've never said his name?
No, they never did.
I have to tell you this, and again, the fact that I only know him, that I was like, where do I know this guy from? He's the doctor that fits Arizona's prosthetic leg. So that tells you
I've already seen
that
him?
tells you how much I watched Grey's Anatomy. That I recognized him from a role he plays for about 20 minutes in one episode of Grey's Anatomy.
Like her first prosthetic leg? So I've seen him already.
When she very first gets it.
I'm betting because I saw that like months ago. I'm betting that I was like, oh, that's the guy. And then I moved on.
You wouldn't even, But it would be like, that's how I knew who this guy was.
Because I remember him from, he was in a National Lampoon's movie.
Oh.
I think it was Vegas Vacation.
Okay.
Let me see.
Which I think is also true. I looked up his movies, but I was like, well, I wouldn't know him from that. I looked him up at all the things. And I knew why I knew him was from Grey's.
I remember him mostly from, and also he's in Grace and Frankie. He plays Grace's son.
That is the other thing. When I saw that on there too, I was like, oh,
Vegas
yes.
Vacation.
I did remember him from Grace and Frankie. I was like, okay, I do remember that too.
I love him in that. I think he's a great
I do
character.
too. I forgot how good he was. And that's probably also probably sticks in my head too. But the fact that I remembered that other part, I was like, that's
well, the
just
first
crazy.
time I saw this movie, he was the kid from Vegas Vacation. So,
well, that makes sense. But I will say, and again, Jimmy, Jonathan, that's his name. We won't say his last name because neither of us know how to say it.
Because we don't know how to say it. He's great.
He
does the character so well.
He really does do the character very well. And I kind of would watch him and I was like, yeah, he's definitely another person I haven't seen in anything. But he played that character. He played that role very well. And he is pretty cute too. Like he's a cute guy that's like the lead singer guy. But I would have to say that Guy is my favorite. Okay. He kind of almost instantly, just because he seemed unassuming and very like
he was just along for the ride.
Yeah, and just kind of down to earth. And even in the beginning, I was kind of like, oh no, why are you with this girl who doesn't actually care about you? Which of course was, well, when I very first saw her, I did not realize it was Charlize Theron. I was like, oh. But she's
great in that role.
She really is. And I was kind of like, but I knew right away, she was just kind of like, yeah, why am I here? Anytime.
It's weird because the band guys seem so much younger than Guy, but we're supposed to assume they're all out of high school.
Yeah.
Even though TB Player seems super young.
Yeah.
But like she seems a lot older and she's like dating her
and
dentist.
falls in love with the dentist. Yeah.
I think this is probably the first time I ever saw Charlize
Theron. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even,
I've
hardly see her in anything. So I was kind of like, okay. And then another great player for the role is Liv Tyler playing Faye. She's the perfect, she's so proud of Jimmy and she's so like, it's definitely like one of those teenage love seeming, where like we're together and
she champions for him.
Champions for him, and then just is so all about the band, and she's just so, you guys are like my brothers now, yay!
Yeah, he doesn't appreciate her,
and he doesn't appreciate her at all. And in the beginning, I didn't notice it as much.
Yeah,
and then it instantly becomes glaring when a guy has to go back and grab her when they're trying to get in the car, getting through the crowd.
And then every time you watch the movie after that, then you'll notice all the little things.
Yeah,
that he
I was
does.
going to say,
like,
I'll have to watch in the beginning then to see if I was like, okay. Because like in the beginning when they want to be the Own-Eaters, when they're going over band names, I was just dying. I was like, oh my God. And then he goes, yeah, but look at that. We're going to be Own-Eaters or whatever.
No, it's one, like the Wonders.
Yeah, and he goes like one. And then everybody's calling that the Own-Eaters. And I was like, oh, Lord.
That's
the best
just
thing
one
was,
of...
when Tom changed it. Hanks changes it to the Wonders.
That was one of the lines that I like say to myself in my head probably daily. I'm like, the Own-Eaters, just for no reason. He's trying to be funky like all the other bands of the 60s, the 50s and the 60s are doing weird stuff with their names like the Beatles. And he's like, no, it's the one, like the Wonders. And Tom Hanks is like, nah.
No, you'll just be the Wonders with the W.
So who's your favorite character?
I think it's Guy. I think Guy is my favorite.
I just didn't listen.
No, you're good. I liked the way, and his character development I think was a little bit better too. But I feel like he was featured.
He was the main guy.
But he seemed also, and of course he's the most gentlemanly, it seemed. And
oh yeah, you're like in love with him by then. And I love his parents.
I know. It was kind of funny too in the beginning how his dad's just like, and they're like all mad at him. He doesn't turn the lights off at the store, that kind of thing. And then when they're on the TV and then they're all there watching.
And he tells his sister, oh, now you have to do more at the store. And she's like, are you going to pay me? No.
No, I didn't say anything about paying you.
Absolutely love it. But yeah, then when they see him on TV, they're all like excited for him. And I love it. And your favorite actor in the movie?
I feel like maybe Liv Tyler actually was like the one who did the best in her role for sure. Because she definitely, especially towards the end when, things break down and everything. And I was like, oh, she's so sweet.
She's so sweet. And like, she could have played it like all dramatic and she could have played it different, but she's so like passive about everything. And
just seemed so genuinely supportive and happy throughout the different parts. There was a time where they were going to go out on stage and, Hanks is doing his thing each time. Like, have I told you how well you guys look in red? Have I told you how well you look in gold? Each time, And then he was like, what's going on here? Fix his suit. And it was, what's the guy's name? The Steve Zahn's character's name?
Lenny.
And he was like wrinkled and she's behind him and she's like straightening it.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm just here to help these guys look their best. She was glad to be in that role, but they appreciated her. I mean, other than Jimmy, really. But they seemed to appreciate her, too. All the guys did. I mean, because in the beginning, she's the first one that heard it on the radio and was, like, running around the small town finding everyone so we can all listen to it.
I love that.
But
Tom Hanks' character, Mr. White, said she had to have a role if she was... Because he was always there for her, too.
Yeah.
He was more there for her than Jimmy was
He definitely was.
Everyone was there for her.
At first, I thought he was going to try to get her out. I thought Hanks would be swarmy and be like, oh, you're going to be a distraction.
Yeah.
But right away, he was like, well, if she's coming along, she's the wardrobe mistress or something. He said.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And then, every time after that, I was kind of like, oh, no, he's down with her. And sent her, because when he's like, oh, Guy asked, Faye's coming, right? And he's like, Faye's being taken care of. And I was like, uh-oh, what happened? And she's out getting shopping, getting fabulous makeover. I was like, oh, he is taking care of her. So that I was also
and when she was
of.
sick, and Jimmy did not care.
Didn't care one bit.
Yeah, Mr. White's like, okay, Guy, you got to go take care of, like, go check on Faye.
That was also, very strange at times that it was maybe obvious to everyone else that Jimmy was like, meh.
Well, I think it was only obvious to Guy. I think that Lenny was always in his own, like, worried about himself. And TB was just like, when am I going to be done doing this so I can I don't understand him
No.
joining the army. I don't understand that at all.
It kind of came out of the blue when he announced it, and then they were all like, well, I guess we have you till whenever. And I was like, well, that's strange.
So weird.
And then he did just kind of like, when he found those servicemen in the restaurant, he just like went off with them.
Yeah. And they went to like
replaced
Disney or something.
Yeah. It was so weird. I was like, okay.
Oh, good times.
Yeah, but it was good. That was funny.
I think Lenny's my favorite character in the movie because he's just funny and silly. And he is just along for the ride because when things start to go south, he's just like, okay, you guys, I'm going to go gamble and whatever.
Yeah.
Faye is my second, especially her speech at the end to Jimmy when she's like, I've wasted so many kisses on you.
Oh, I 100%.
Best part of the movie.
I was crying then. I was like, oh my gosh. And she just was like, how did she start that? Was she like, I need to say something? She said something like along those
something
lines.
like, I have something I want to say.
I have
or
something to say.
And guys like, the fair Faye has something.
Like he didn't think it was going to be anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand the part about, okay, so when they put up on the screen that it said he was the newly engaged and he kind of like had this look of horror.
Yeah.
Well, then later he's like, who told them that? Like, whatever. And I was like, where did that even come from? Did they just do it to be like...
I think that the label was like, let's
do it just
let's
to
make him that much more desirable or
Right.
something. Like, they did it.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with Faye. And he thought that Faye told them that.
Okay.
And then he was a complete A about it. And like...
Yeah. Because I was kind of like, she was literally like, she really didn't say like, I didn't do it. I mean, she did. I think she's like, I didn't do it. But she also was kind of like, why is that such a bad thing?
Yeah, we're adults and we've been together for a long time and I do everything for you. And then she realizes that
he's
him.
Scum.
He's him.
Yeah. That was good though that they began.
I do love Steve Zahn in this, though. I love like most of his movies. I think he's amazing in, and he does all different characters in different movies. And he's like so sweet as Phoebe's ex-husband, and then he's this character.
Yeah,
and then
this is very similar. I feel like just like sweet and like he just seems like a little lovable guy. Like he's just like so cute.
And even Embry is just cute, like the bass player. He's just a fun, cute little guy.
Yeah, he is.
Jonathan, what's his name? He is cute, and I think I've seen him on other things, and he is perfect as the handsome leading man that, you know, everybody wants to focus on him because that's whose posters are going to be on people's walls and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think he ends up going on to be like a music executive or something. But like,
well, and in the beginning when they were talking about their names of their bands, he wanted the Wanderers to be one, and then when they play the thing at the end, that's the band he started.
Yes.
They do like a...
it was the Herdsmen.
Herdsmen. That's what it was.
He's like, you know, like herdsman.
Yeah. That's right. Like,
I think he played it so well because I have seen him. I don't even remember what I saw him in later, but I don't like him.
Yeah.
I don't like that actor because he's Jimmy and Jimmy's a jerk.
Yeah.
But he's a good actor and I have nothing against him.
Exactly. I was going to say, when somebody can play a character where you don't like them, that means they're a great actor.
And Tom Everett Scott, he's been in other things. I've seen him in other things, like, especially recently, but I couldn't name them. And he's just, you know, he's a good actor.
Yeah. And he seems very... He's kind of the guy next door in this to me. I mean, he's just, like I said, since we saw so much of his family, I think that it made me think like, he's so down home. And he's just so sweet when, like he said, when he took care of Faye and did all that, he was the guy
for her.
Yeah. I mean, it just was so sweet that those two, I'm like so happy that came to fruition.
Of course, Tom Hanks is their manager. He takes over from Phil, who meets with them in his camper.
That was
played
amazing.
by Chris Ellis.
Come get into my office.
Bill Cobbs as Del Paxton. Del Paxton. I loved that whole scenario where he meets his idol Del Paxton, who he's been listening to his records in the shop, and then there he is, and there he's like, "Oh, come hang out with us." And I was like, "Oh my god, I've been here. I like this. This is bringing back memories.
Yeah.
I like this."
I was a little worried he seemed to be getting a little too drunk at the time. I was like,
Yeah, I know. It was so funny, but
what's
he
he
was
going
fine
to do?
with it.
But it was great.
And then Rita Wilson, Tom Hanks' wife, plays Marguerite.
I feel like she always ends up in the movies.
Yeah,
Same
she's
movies
always
as
in his
him.
movies. Yeah. And Peter Scolari, he's perfect in like the MC role
Yeah.
on TV.
For the little, what was the name of that show?
It was the Hollywood Television Showcase.
Yes, that was awesome.
He was Troy Chesterfield.
And he did great with the whole, like, the wonders.
Yes.
And where's that? Is it that same part where Chris Isaac makes a appearance?
He's like Guy's uncle, or he's somebody's uncle. Let's see. Oh, Guy's Uncle Bob.
That's right, Uncle Bob.
And he's like a minister who records church music.
Yes.
And so they go in there and record their first session.
Yeah.
The bass player falls in love with one of the chanterlines. And he's backstage. He's so cute backstage dancing with them.
That was awesome.
It was adorable.
I just loved, I loved having the little different girl bands. And except who was the lady in the beginning? And there was that at the one moment when Jimmy was like, so-and-so
older
said
lady?
not to trust the label. And
Diane Dane.
And that's right. And Faye looks at him and is like, Diane Dane?
Because I feel like she's like an older, like silver screen type of lady.
Yes.
But she's also on this bus tour.
Right.
To
But then when she was,
fairs.
performing, she went and sat on Jimmy's
Yes,
lap at one point.
she liked him.
And then he was all like, oh, yes, I was talking to her. And Faye's like, oh, really?
Oh, Sean Whalen was one of the hecklers at the talent show, and they call him, Steve Zahn says, oh, is that our fan?
Yes.
That guy is in
He's
everything.
in everything.
He's in everything.
I had to look him up, and then I didn't even write his name down because, of course, well, everything kind of comes back to Friends. He plays a pizza delivery guy on Friends. Who gives them George Stephanopoulos' pizza.
I gotta find him.
I love that. Is that our fan?
I say that all the time.
I do think it's funny, too, like the whole, like, kind of his I am Spartacus catchphrase that Guy starts doing, I was just kind of like,
it's
what?
so weird.
I thought it was going to, like, something else was
That
going to
it was
happen with
going
that,
somewhere,
but
yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. It's just
and his
thing.
girlfriend is just like, what?
Yeah. It's like, I don't get it.
And for like 10 seconds, we see Bryan Cranston of, what's the name of the show? With the drugs.
With the drugs.
Oh my God. What is Bryan Cranston in? Breaking Bad. Bryan Cranston of Breaking Bad shows up for a second as Gus Grissom, the astronaut who flew in. He's talking about how he flew in on the Gemini.
The Gemini. I did hear that part, but yes, I did not know. Well, I haven't seen Breaking Bad, so.
Oh, okay. Well, he was also in other shows. I just think this movie gives me good feels. And it's one of the, like, it's a palate cleanser movie that, because I don't like watching movies with a lot of strife and violence and stuff.
Yeah.
I like watching movies like this.
Yeah.
And that's why I've seen it a million times, and because it has really good music. And I thought that, this is why I kept telling you, this movie was made for us. You have to watch it. It's literally our movie.
Yeah.
It's about,
Yeah. It's so
60s
good. It's
bands.
just, and it goes like, it went really fast too. Probably because I just liked it. It just is like you said, a quick watch of something that's a feel-good story also. Because, same thing. I don't like watching movies anymore that have, I pretty much need to watch like comedies or something because I don't like to have
feelings.
Definitely any, I'm all okay being emotional if it's like sad,
there's a happy
happy-ish.
ending.
But
There's a
not
happy
necessarily,
ending.
you're right. Like no violence, no craziness. So it's like, all right, perfect. Yes.
There's no part of the movie that makes me like really tense and that I need to get through. And there's no part of the movie that's boring either.
No.
Which is very important.
Everything was good. Yeah.
But I remember when this movie came out, like before it came out, everyone was talking about how Tom Hanks was making this movie about like, a band and they wrote all the music and, it's kind of like the Monkees in that here's this on-screen struggling band, but it's actually a band put together by but they're not actually a band.
Well, I kind of thought the same thing. I was like, other than the fact that they weren't like supposed to be a TV show or whatever, but it was like, and that they kind of came together like organically ahead of time. But I thought, yeah, it definitely had the same feels. Like, oh, they found someone to like promote them, and definitely.
Which
still
is funny
having to
because
do.
that's how I thought when I first discovered the monkeys when I was like in middle school. That's how I always imagined the monkeys happened because I didn't know yet.
Yeah.
I didn't know how
Didn't
they
know the actual
formed.
history.
I thought they were just guys hanging out who made a band.
And were offered
then
a
were on
TV show. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, because, I mean, they live in this beach house. And they're always struggling, right? Yeah.
So
until
true.
I, found out the truth.
Yeah.
Years later. But.
True. So this is kind of like backwards of that, almost.
Yeah.
Because they do. Well, that's the part I almost forgot about is when they get to be in the motion picture.
Oh, my God.
And they're wearing their little sailor outfits
Captain
or whatever. And
Beach
Jimmy's
the shrimp
so
shack
mad.
Or whatever. Oh, my God. He is.
And they're not even really like playing or anything. They're just pretending to. And I was like, oh,
but Lenny's loving it.
Yeah.
Lenny's like, man, this is the greatest thing ever. And we get to keep the costumes.
My God, that was so funny.
I love that. And then they were like, okay, stop the playback. And then what's his name? The goofy guy. He sees something out in the water. And oh, it's so funny. It reminded me of the Monkees episode. The Monkees did an episode like this where they were like on the set of a beach movie. And then what is his name? Bobby Sherman.
I was like, isn't What's Her Bucket in that, or in one of those?
Not in that one.
Yeah.
It was just Bobby Sherman. Yeah. Bobby Sherman plays like the star of the movie. And then something happens to him, so Davey ends up playing the star.
Yeah, when they started doing that whole dance, I was like, oh, interesting. Same vibes.
Because they went through all the stages of like a successful and then failing band.
Right. And I think at the end, Tom Hanks calls him out basically like, well, the world is full of like one-hit wonders. Yeah. And because he's like, well, you didn't read the fine print. You have to do what I say. And, da-da-da-da-da. And then Jimmy gets up to the mic and is like, starts singing that he quits. It's like, oh.
That's another one that when I'm at work sometimes I'm like, I quit. I love it. But Tom Hanks' character, he's stern and he's a businessman. But he also has heart.
Yeah.
And, he has sympathy for them, but he also has to do business.
Yeah. It never seemed like he was trying to screw them over.
No.
He really, a few times when he was just being so, like, he kept yelling at Guy if he didn't have his sunglasses on or something. He's like, that's what people want to see, shades.
Shades. That is so on point, too. That they take one character and give him a nickname and a personality and, like, it's hilarious.
I was expecting him to be... Either in the beginning, not knowing anything, I thought he was going to be just the big brothery type guy. And then I thought, or he's trying to screw them over. And he was kind of like in the middle, like you said, businessy, but kind of, you could tell he cared about them and wanted to. Because I think same thing at the end, especially like when the whole thing goes down with Jimmy and Faye. Hanks is like, aren't you just an ass?
Yeah, right? I know. Yeah. He's like, yeah. But... He knows that now he's going to turn around and get a different group of guys and do the same thing. And maybe it'll work out and maybe it won't. But, doesn't really matter to him. So you loved it.
I did.
And I'm glad you did. And now you can ride around in your car listening to the soundtrack like I do.
Yes.
I think All My Only Dreams is probably my favorite song on that song. Do you have any other notes about that thing you do?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything.
It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, and if you are a regular listener of this show, then you have to see it because it's right up your alley.
For sure. Sure. I'm so glad I got to watch it because it was really good. I like being retro-y too. Not only was it made 30 years ago, it was supposed to be 30 years before that. So
I thought they did a really good job. It wasn't over the top, weird. The music was reminiscent of the 60s, but it was still pretty modern for the 90s, I felt like. It kind of straddled both worlds.
Yeah. I think it worked.
Yeah. And that's why I keep listening to it. Should we wrap this up?
I think we wrap it up.
We have nothing to clink.
Oh, I know. Well, we have our stainless steel.
Oh, stainless steel. Okay.
We're water drinkers today. Clink.
So 2024. Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Wrap it up.
I love when what's her name? Charlize Theron gets bored. She just leaves. I'm like, what did you think was going to happen? She's all, oh, I have to go to this little show. And then she's like bored. And so she leaves.
I know. I was kind of like right away. I thought this is not going to. See, I thought she was going to play a much longer role. And end up being like bringing him down or some shit.
Right. But no, it was just. Yeah. All right. We're done.